Let's talk about your money. Is it just sitting there or is it actually working for you? Today, we're going to look at 5 completely different paths you can take, from the super safe and steady all the way to the high-speed lane. By the time we're done, you'll have a much clearer map of what's out there.
Seriously, think about that for a second. If your cash is just parked in a regular bank account, inflation is probably eating away at its value, little by little, every single day. So the idea is to put that money to work. The question isn't if you should invest, it's really about how you should invest.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the foundation. These are your safest, most predictable options. Then we'll cross the bridge into the digital world with stablecoins. After that, we fire up the engine. That's the high-octane world of variable income. And finally, we'll wrap up by helping you figure out which of these paths actually fits you. Let's get started.
First up, we've got fixed income. You can think of this as the bedrock of your investment strategy. These are the kinds of investments where, you pretty much know exactly what you're going to get back and when. It is all about stability.
So in this category, we've got 2 classic options. On one side, brokerage loans, or cauciones, where you're basically lending money to other investors for a very short time. On the other, term deposits, or plazo fijo, which you're probably familiar with. The biggest difference here, the thing you really need to pay attention to, is liquidity. With a term deposit, your money is locked up for at least 30 days, no touching it. But with a brokerage loan, you can do it for as little as 1 day. That gives you a ton of flexibility. Both are low risk, they're both regulated, and the returns in pesos are pretty similar, though term deposits have a slight edge right now. Really, it just comes down to this. How soon might you need to get your hands on that cash?
And hey, here's a pro tip for term deposits you might not know about. You're not stuck with whatever rate your own bank is offering. You can actually go to the central bank's official website, and they have a tool that lets you compare the rates from all the banks. You can just pick the highest one and set up a deposit right there, even if you're not a customer. It's a fully regulated system designed to let you shop around for the best deal. Pretty neat, right?
Okay, so fixed income is great, it's stable, but it's in local currency. What if you wanted something that's tied to the US dollar, and what if you wanted to be able to access it anytime you want, middle of the night, weekends, holidays, whenever?
Well, that question leads us right across our bridge to stablecoins. These are a really interesting type of cryptocurrency. Their whole purpose is to hold a value that's equal to $1 US. They're kind of like a link between the old-school financial world and the new digital one. So, the currency here is a digital dollar. But the real showstopper, the main attraction, is that absolute 24/7 liquidity. Your money isn't tied to banking hours. Now, the risk is considered low to medium. Why? Well, there's always the risk that the US dollar itself fluctuates. Plus, there's a small but real risk that the stablecoin could lose its 1-to-1 peg to the dollar. And it is super important to know that this whole space is not fully regulated just yet.
And this right here is why people get excited about it. An expected annual return of around 8%. But in dollars, that is a completely different world from the 50% in pesos we were just looking at. Here, you're earning a yield in a hard currency, and for a lot of people, that's a much more powerful proposition.
Okay, so we've built our foundation, we've crossed the bridge, now it's time to fire up the engine. Welcome to variable income. This is a whole different ballgame. Returns are not guaranteed. That means you could see some incredible growth, but you could also lose a lot of money.
Inside this engine, there are 2 very different paths we can take. On the left, you've got ETFs, which are kind of like buying a big basket of stocks all at once. You're spreading your risk. On the right, you have copy trading. This is the complete opposite. You're basically putting all your chips on one single person and hoping they make the right moves. Your risk is totally concentrated.
ETFs are a really popular way to aim for growth. For example, by buying an ETF that tracks the S&P 500, you're not betting on one company. You're betting on the 500 biggest companies in the US all at once. Historically, that's given a return of about 10 to 15% a year in dollars. It's definitely a long-term play, but you can sell it anytime the stock market is open.
And then there's copy trading. This is where the numbers start to sound, well, kind of crazy. A 40% annual return is often considered a conservative estimate. You can find traders on these platforms who are pulling in close to 100% gains in a single month in dollars. I mean, that potential for insane growth is what gets people's attention.
But, and I cannot stress this enough, this is the most important but you will hear today. The risk is just exorbitantly high. Those incredible potential returns come hand in hand with the very real possibility that you could lose everything. And I mean literally overnight. This is absolutely not for the faint of heart, and you have to go in with your eyes wide open to that possibility.
So we've walked through 3 very different worlds, right? The stable foundation, the flexible bridge, and the high-powered, high-risk engine. So now the final step is to figure out
What about you? Which of these paths actually makes sense for your goals and, maybe more importantly, your personality?
It really all boils down to this chart. This is kind of the fundamental law of investing. Risk and potential reward go together. As you move from left to right, from fixed income to stablecoins to variable income, the potential for higher returns go up, but so does the risk. You just can't get one without the other.
So, which of these sounds more like you? A conservative investor's #1 goal is just, don't lose my money. They want predictable results, so they're going to lean towards things like term deposits and brokerage loans. An aggressive investor, on the other hand, is trying to maximize their profit. They understand and accept that high volatility is part of the game. They're the ones looking at ETFs and maybe even dipping a toe into that wild world of copy trading.
Look, knowing these paths exist is the first big step. Understanding yourself and where you might fit on that spectrum is the second. The whole journey of making your money work for you is a personal one. But now, at least you have a map. The only question left is, which road are you going to start walking down?